What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is an important one because we are listening to Prime Minister Andrew Holness addressing Jamaicans in the aftermath of recent hurricanes and natural disasters, and more specifically explaining how the government is responding through the Roofs program and wider recovery efforts. This speech is not just about grants or roofs. It's about leadership under pressure, climate reality, and how a government responds when disaster keeps hitting back to back. So let's listen carefully because there is a lot being said here and a lot that people are reacting to emotionally and politically. Let's get into it.
Thank you very much, Madam Director of Protocol and Master of these ceremonies, Mrs. Pelia Suarez Brown. I want to acknowledge the Minister of Labour and Social Security, the Honourable Pernell Charles. I won't bother say Junior, because he is now more than walking in his father's footsteps. He's walking in his own footsteps, leaving his own footprint. And he has really risen to the challenge of managing two major natural disasters back to back. So, good job, Minister. Good job. We have here with us the Member of Parliament. I know I have two other members of Parliament here, but I'm going to say something because, we have a tendency when we say MPs, we say Floyd Green, Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth. Frank, don't feel no way. Andrew. Where is Zulika Jess? She's not here? She had another engagement. But that is just because Minister Green is the Minister of Agriculture. So he's Minister for the Breadbasket Parish. So we have Minister Green, Member of Parliament for Southwest St. Elizabeth. We have another minister in the Ministry of Agriculture. Frank, good to see you here. Right? And we have Andrew Morris, the new kid on the block. Good to see you here, Andrew. We have the Honorable Donovan Williams. Now, if you talk to him, he will tell you that his constituency was also impacted by Melissa. In fact, if you talk to any MP, they will tell you their constituency was impacted by Melissa. But no, he's not here to receive any of the benefits for his constituency. He's here as the Minister of State in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. Mrs. Dion Jennings, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, and other permanent secretaries who may be here. His Worship, the Mayor. Mr. Mayor, good to see you. And of course, the most important people in this ceremony, the beneficiaries of the Roofs program. And you remember what the Roofs acronym stands for? It's the restoration of owner or occupant family shelter. Roofs. Quite appropriately coined. Now, just to be quick about it, already the government has distributed 1,234 grants under the Roofs program. And they have done this by direct transfers, meaning It has gone from the bank account of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security into the bank accounts of the 1,234 beneficiaries. And that process will just be ongoing. As we verify a bank account, we send you a text to tell you that it has hit your bank account. These are mainly persons who would have received minor damage, but are also in the highly vulnerable category, primarily persons who are elderly, persons who are shut-in, persons with disability. But the government has also issued so far to 50 persons who have been assessed as having severe damage. So far, since we have started, which was just today, 50 persons have gotten their $500,000 grant to restore their roof. Now, while Pernell was talking, a lady was so moved, and she said, "Thank God, no more water coming on me now." See her there? Melissa, I tell you. So, I want it to be clearly known. You have a government that is very empathetic. Meaning, we not only feel sorry for you, which is sympathetic, but we understand your pain, and therefore we act with urgency to help you to come out of that situation of pain. Empathy. Now, there are those who will try to paint the government as not caring and not doing anything. Lie! Lie! We, as a government, has acted with speed and alacrity because we are a government that genuinely cares for the people. They are those who will say they care, and they will say it with the greatest of eloquence and theatrical pretense that you may even believe them. But as the most honorable Edward Siaga was once noted to have said, to much criticism, it is one thing to say you care. It is another thing to have the cash to care. And it is one thing that this government has been able to do. Not just to say we care, but we have administered your affairs such that we have the cash to back up the care talk with action. And we have done it in COVID, when we have put on the largest social transfer program ever in the history, $40 billion of care for people who lost their jobs, lost their income, and we gave a grant to everybody just because we love you. In COVID, you remember that? People line up and go and collect the little grant. I said, one lady said, we never get. But 400,000 Jamaicans got the grants. Everything verified. Not one criticism, not one audit to say there was any corruption. Not one. Then Beryl came We gave over 16,000 grants. And I tell you something, I was in St. Mary. I was in a little town there. And a man stopped me and he said, Prime Minister, the government now do nothing. Listen carefully. Because me not get my grant for burial. And I stop and I reflect on it and I said, the Monday before I sat with the minister and cabinet and I said, tell me how many persons got grants? And it showed me the list that 16 plus thousand Jamaicans got grants. But one person never get. And him stopped me in the middle of the town and at the top of his voice because he didn't get. The government not do nothing. And that is the nature of the world we live in. It's just how politics is, how people see their government. If the government never serve me, then not never get done. And we have to be cognizant of this fact. Because one loud voice saying negative can impact the perspective of the 16,000 who received, but don't say a word. Because nobody stopped me in the town to say, I received. And indeed, they shouldn't. That's the government's job. You suppose you get the grant. That's how it is. But it is important that you manage the narrative and the mood. Because as a man thinketh, and if people start to think negative, they will start to act negative. And it is one thing that we must keep in these difficult times, times of disaster. It is an optimistic attitude. It's a positive attitude. Because if you think that things are not going well, if you think that you are being unfairly treated and you are under distress and there is no hope, then that will be the reality. That will be your reality. I know when I speak, I move people to ask questions. You know, say another lady there television. But when I finish my speech, now there are a few things I want to say to you, since I have you and you are all very attentive and want to ask questions and participate in the presentation. I just thought I would share this with you. In the 65 years since 1960, some of you were born then. In fact, when I look at the audience, a lot of you weren't born then. Maybe 10% of this audience was around in 1965. There have been 799 recorded storms. 799, almost 800 storms. 201 of those storms, almost 25% of those storms, have occurred within the last 10 years. So for 65 years, 800 storms. But a quarter of them, 201, have occurred in the last 10 years. But think about it. Which administration then would have experienced the most storms? My administrations. From 2016 to now. This administration has been impacted the most by storms. Let me give you another statistic. There have been 34 Category 5 hurricanes since 1960. 14 of them have occurred since 2015. In other words, 40% of all Category 5 storms have taken place in the last 10 years. Which government of Jamaica has ever had to deal with a Category 5 storm? All right, let's take it one step further. Which government of Jamaica has ever had to deal with a pandemic? All right, which government of Jamaica has had to deal with a pandemic, a Category 3 hurricane, and then the following year a Category 5 hurricane? None. And in all of them, we have been able to respond, recover stronger. This is not an easy job. I see a lot of people pretending, because that's all they're doing, pretending like they would want to do my job. They don't know. they think maybe it just looks so easy. But it's not easy. Now, one thing that my administration tries to do is to approach these things with structure. And because we put a lot of effort into doing it correctly, we are not able to deliver at the speed of need. Meaning, as you need it, you get it. Because there are some other things that we have to do. For example, in this program, as we are trying to hurry to get to the grant, there is a constitutional creature called the Auditor General that is not just waiting until you make a mistake, but the Auditor General is actively auditing as you are carrying out the effort to respond. That in itself places some friction on our ability to move quickly. Because it is one thing to deliver the grant to you, but it's another thing to deliver it and somebody saying, you know, half of the grant gone, can't account for it. What we want to do is to make sure that every dollar of the grant end up in your pocket and not somebody else who never deserve it pocket. So we are not able to deliver at the speed of need. We are trying to deliver at the speed with accountability to satisfy your need. That is what we have been doing. And I think the pace at which we have been able to do so is a fairly good pace. And I want to thank you, those of you, especially my lady friend here, who was very vocal in saying she's happy to get her grant so she can cover her roof, get our life back together. I know many of you are out there suffering, water coming, you lose your fridge, you lose your bed, uncomfortable. I know. But the grants are going out now and they will go out apace. So there are a couple of things I want to say about the grants going out now. I will be asking MOCA to do a sampling for fraud in the recovery grants. In other words, we have to check that if you got a grant, that you actually use it for the purpose you got the grant for. And that you're not defrauding the government. Taking the grant, say you're going to do something with it, and you're going to do something else. That's not fair, because somebody else who actually needed it could have got that grant. So I want to sound the warning clearly that if you get the grant, the portion of the grant that is directed at your roof, fix your roof, start your roof, buy, because I know what's going to happen. Let me tell you, we know because we have constituents and we give grants to people, and sometimes people go to the hardware and they get the building grant and they go and they buy the 10 sheet of zinc and the 2x4 and the lat and so forth. And they do go home and they fix. But some get the grant and they go to the hardware and they stand up there and they watch and see who coming in. And then they say, you want to buy some zinc? And so here is the grant. See the farm here, you go inside here and you just give me $10,000 and you take it and go buy where you want. Some people do that. They never needed it. Somebody else who actually needed it could have gotten it. These are the kind of things that we will be checking on. Now, the way in which we are giving the grants now, it might not be so easy to do that because the grants are restricted as to where you can spend them and what you can spend them on. But people can still find their ways and we will be checking. We cannot be spending $10 billion. That's what we're spending. A lot of money. And we are not seeing the benefit of it in the roofs being restored. Spend it on restoring your roof. Now, just to be clear, the government is not just doing this alone. We have a comprehensive, what we call shelter restoration program. And it's important that I say this so the entire Jamaica knows, so that those people who are vested in spreading lies and misinformation, we counter it by giving you the facts. You know. No, you know, Pernell, today we replace that word propaganda with fake news and misinformation. But we should really go back to that because that's the genesis of it, propaganda. You remember those days in the 70s when propaganda. That's what it is. Now, we have a comprehensive program called the Shelter Restoration Program, the SRP. One element of the SRP is what we call the government-directed roof repair program, and that is led by the JDF, and we have several volunteer engineering corps here. We have the Guyanese, the Ghanaians, and the Rwandans are here, and they are in St. Elizabeth, they are in St. James, and they are in Westmoreland, and they are restoring roofs, and they are doing quite a good job. I toured what they were doing. The people are very happy, and they are proceeding well. Then we have the NHD, and the NHD has a program where they are giving grants up to $500,000 as well. And in fact, they have started. They have started to give their grants. And funny enough, they've gone over 1,000 grants already. Sorry, 6,000. They've gone over 6,000 grants. But you would never know. Nobody not calling the radio station to say, oh, you know, I got my grant. What you're going to get is the people call and say, oh, I don't get. But it is happening. See, people getting their grants. 6,000 people, the last report I had, but they move fast was 1,000, they're at 6,000 now. We have some other programs as well, which are not necessarily for roof repair, but for rehabilitation. The World Food Program and other partners are also giving grants. And in fact, I mean, I should tell you a story that I got a call from someone who was saying, oh, the Prime Minister said, if you get severe damage, you get 500,000. But all I see in my bank account is 30,000. But you never hear that reach to the level of a complaint in the media. because nobody wants to tell anybody that they got this $30,000 in their account and they don't know what it is for. It's just by accident some brave person decide to complain, and then I had to explain. I said, no, that's another program that the government is doing. Quite legitimate, and you would have qualified for it because you were assessed as being in need of rehabilitation, and you will get it for a couple of weeks, over the next month, 2 months or so. So the government is doing quite a bit. We haven't made too much of it. And the population is keeping it very quiet because nobody wants to be identified as, having received a benefit and then somebody else have not gotten it. But it's very coordinated and very strategic. That is why we have gone through and done 86,000 assessments. So nobody's getting a benefit who is not on that list of 86,000 persons. Only persons who have been assessed will get the benefit. Now, if you have not received a benefit and you have not been assessed, and you will know, nobody came to your house, maybe you hear the assessors came in the community, but you weren't there. As Minister Charles pointed out, you can go online and fill out the self-assessment form or use your initiative. Go to the regional office, speak to one of the social workers there, explain your situation, and let them come and assess you. All right? Now, I've made a commitment that I'm going to try and help everyone that is in need that has gone through assessment. But at some time, we are going to close assessments because we can't do it forever. The budget is not unlimited. So I would urge you, if you have not been assessed, to do so now, because very soon we will have to close this. And the reason for that is that the hurricane management happens in 3 phases. Four phases. The first phase is preparedness. And every year we go through a routine of disaster preparedness. We put out the ads, we tell you how to prepare yourself. If there is a hurricane coming, we go through an intensive process of giving you information so that you know what to do. A lot of people don't follow the information. They believe, the government telling lie or not never come. We said to you, move, and you said, no, you're not move, you're going to stay with your house. All right? Hurricane come. People who never move, people who stay in disaster areas, we have to go find them. We said to you, don't build in the gully. Don't build on the steep hill. Don't go in the marsh. Don't build in the swamp. People still go do it. Hurricane come, government have to go find resources. So that's the preparedness side of things. Then there is the relief. Hurricane come, shop close, water lock off. So we have to give you emergency aid. That's called humanitarian relief. And the relief part of our response continues even up till now, but it is winding down. Very shortly, we will officially close relief. The relief element was led by the JDF, ADPEM, and the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. In parallel to relief, we started recovery. And the recovery section now deals with restoring electricity. Well, firstly, restoring access. So that meant clearing the roads, moving the landslides and land slippages that occurred. And I believe you can say we are like 95% access restored all over. There are some areas, some rural areas still cut off because of major land slippage. Those we will have to deal with because, for some of them, it is better to reroute the road rather than to fix the landslide. And so we are assessing the cost benefits. Then restore electricity. And once you restore electricity, you have telecommunications and water. And we are about 95% there with the restoration of these critical utilities. And then restore roofs and shelter. And that's what we're doing now. We are restoring roofs and shelters. This we expect to last for another 2 months or so. So hurry up and restore your roof and your shelter. We will bring an end to that once we assess that all the critical elements of life are restored. Then now we have the fourth and final phase, which is the most important phase. And that phase is called the reconstruction and the resilience building phase. So there are some things that would have presented themselves to us as dangers and threats to the continuity of life and governmental function if there were to be another disaster. Our legacy is such that when the colonial powers were making decisions as to where they would locate hospitals or roads, and when our independence government were making some decisions, they weren't thinking that out of the 800 hurricanes that have occurred in the future, 200 of them would have occurred in the last 10 years. So when the governments from 1960 going on, making decisions, where is this road going to go? Where we locating the hospital? Where we putting the school? Where people are going to live? They weren't thinking that in the 60 years forward, we can't build close to the sea because sea levels are going to rise. You're going to have more hurricanes, more devastating storms. They weren't thinking to enforce on the people, don't build in the river course, because you're going to have more powerful storms that are going to erode the gully banks and destroy your homes. We weren't thinking that way. But it has been exposed to us now that we have to start thinking that way. That we can't put towns so close to the sea anymore. The hospitals can't be so close to the sea. And so when we are thinking about how we are going to build resilience and reconstruct, it's not just build back the hospital where it was, build back the school where it was, build back the police station. No, another storm is going to come again. Did you think that after Beryl, we would have Melissa? So, if we see this happening, what are we going to do now? If we want to be able to preserve life, preserve property, preserve livelihood, then we have to build smart, we have to build strategic. And it's not just the government, you have to start thinking that way. Should I use zinc roof or concrete? And if I use concrete, how am I going to do it? I'm going to make sure that it is properly reinforced. In fact, I'm going to get an engineer to advise me. I'm going to follow the building codes. And boy, if I can't afford the concrete and I have to use it, then I must have properly spaced rafters supported by hurricane straps. You need to do that. That is what we mean when we say think smarter for your own resilience. Because you never had to think about that 50 years, 40 years ago, but you have to think about it now. It's the reality. So in the reconstruction phase, we are going to have to look at the things that are necessary to keep us functioning as a country if we are hit by a disaster. One of the things that was clear to us is that the roadway, this main road that we have here, coming from Spur Tree, Gutters, come all the way, this road can't carry a disaster. Can't carry a disaster. So we're going to have to go build a proper road with proper drainage at a higher level. That is going to be a part of the reconstruction. The Black River Hospital, the people there, the staff there did a wonderful job. But the hospital can't stay there. So too the Falmouth Hospital. So too Noel Homes. Because we see what it can do. So these are what some of the things that we will have to relocate in the construction phase. To get to the construction phase, government needs to be totally focused. So it can't be doing or continue to do relief, restoration, and then to do reconstruction. So we want to wrap up very quickly. So we're going to wrap up relief. And the truth is, most people now don't want to see anybody bring a package come give them anymore. They want to fix their roof now. They want the roof, right? So that's what we're doing now. Get the roof going. And once you get your roof, I know you will find your way. I know you will find your way. And then when we do the reconstruction, we know that if there, God forbid, were to be any other disaster, the impact of the disaster on the continuity of your life and livelihood would be less. And that's the process. And this is what your government has been doing. And this is what I'm totally, wholly focused on for the last few months. And many other things I had planned to be doing. We'll still get back to them. But I have had to shift focus to make sure that Jamaica recovers swiftly and stronger than before the hurricane. And I close with the sentiment of the song. We are already rising again. God bless you and thank you.
Right away, you can tell Prime Minister Andrew Holness is setting a very deliberate tone. He starts by acknowledging ministers, MPs, public servants. But notice how he keeps coming back to one thing. The beneficiaries. The people who are affected. And I want to say this. Whether you support him politically or not, the tone here is not casual. This is a leader speaking after multiple disasters, not just one. He also takes time to recognize Minister Charles and the work being done behind the scenes. That matters because disaster response isn't one man, it's a system. Now when Prime Minister Holness explains the roof program, he does something very important. He explains it plainly. He tells people how many grants have already been sent, that the money goes directly into bank accounts, who qualifies, elderly, disabled or highly vulnerable, and what severe damage get up to $500,000. And when that woman says, "Thank God, no more water coming on me now," that moment is real. That's not politics. That's impact. This is one of the strongest parts of speech. Andrew Holness makes a clear distinction between sympathy, feeling sorry, empathy, understanding pain, and acting quickly. And then he pushes back against the narrative that the government doesn't care. He straight up calls it a lie. Now you don't have to agree with him, but he backs his arguments with data and examples, not just emotion. That line quoting Edward Saga. It's one thing to say you care, it's another thing to have the cash to care. That was intentional. That was political, historical, and strategic. This is where speech gets heavy. Prime Minister Holness lays out the number. Nearly 800 storms since 1960. 25% in the last 10 years. 40% of Category 5 hurricanes since 2015. Whether you like this administration or not, These numbers matter. He is basically saying this government has faced challenges no previous government has ever faced. Pandemic, Category 3 hurricane, then a Category 5 hurricane, back to back. That context is critical, and a lot of critics skip over it. Now here is where some people get uncomfortable. But it needed to be said. Prime Minister Holness warns clearly. Fix your roof. No flipping zinc. No misusing funds. No defrauding the system. And I respect this part because accountability protects the people who actually need help. He also explains why things don't move as fast as people want. Because the Auditor General is auditing a real time. Spend without accountability leads to corruption. Accountability slows things down but protects the money. This is where the speech goes beyond emergency response. Andrew Holness starts talking about relocating hospitals, rethinking roads, not building in gullies or flood zones, building smarter for climate reality. And this is the uncomfortable truth. Jamaica, like many Caribbean nations, can't rebuild the same way anymore. Climate change has changed the rules. Whether you support Andrew Holness or not, this speech shows a Prime Minister who is defending his administration, explaining decisions, and preparing people for a harder future, not selling fairy tales. You may disagree politically. You may be frustrated personally. But the realities he outlined are real. The question now is not just what the government does, but how the citizens respond, prepare, and build smarter. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe the government is doing enough? Should things move faster? Or is accountability more important than speed? If you found this breakdown useful, like the video, subscribe to the channel and share this with someone who needs context, not just noise. Thanks for watching. Bless up.